All right, what is going on, everyone? Hello, and welcome into the Tri-State Football Game Plan Show as we get you ready for Week 5 in the Tri-State area here in this 2025 season. I am Safwan Alvi. As always, I will be your host, and I am joined by Tri-State Football writer, contributor, and friend, Brandon Lampley. And again, we are TriStateFootball.com. Be sure to follow us on all of our social media platforms, Twitter, Instagram, at TS Football. Again, that is at TS Football. You can like us on Facebook and follow us and subscribe to us on YouTube as well, where you can listen to our coaches' interviews, pregame, postgame, and all of our live content and full content. So again, we appreciate everyone joining us tonight. And Brandon, it is Week 5. That means we are getting ready to end 50% of the regular season. Football season always goes by very quickly, and here we are, just about 48 hours until kickoff. We're going to talk all the big games in the area tonight. We got some ranked matchups. We got big matchups. But, we got to start off with the biggest game of the year, right? The one that everybody circles on their calendar, game of the century style football, right? Number 1 versus number 2, right? The one that sells out the house, right? The St. Xavier Bombers, the Moeller Crusaders, right? They're kicking off GCL South play. Both teams, again, are top 2 ranked in our rankings. This game is going to be held at West Claremont High School. So, Brandon, we got to start off with this game. Let me know what you're thinking with these two behemoths going at it.
Well, a great rivalry from way back, from all the years we can all remember growing up, and even those before us, our fathers, grandfathers. St. Xavier versus Moeller, always a big game. And it's no different this year. I'm looking at kind of an offense versus a defense type of a game. I'm looking at the Moeller offense against the St. Xavier defense, and I think whoever wins that battle will ultimately win the game. When I think of defense, I'm thinking of Kobe Clapper from St. Xavier, Daniel Vollmer, Braden. Sorry, man, I don't know what happened there.
Oh, no worries. Little audio trouble. No worries. Little audio trouble.
Yeah. But I'm thinking of those guys, and I'm thinking, how can they make an impact? How can they get to the quarterback, who is Matt Ponatoski, and keep him from getting that ball out to his playmakers, and Tyler Jocelyn in the backfield. And I think whoever, like I said, wins that battle will be able to win the game. In my opinion, I like offense a little better. I think Moeller's defense is good enough. I would take Moeller in this one, in a close one. 30-27 is my prediction there.
Yeah.
What do
There's
you got
so much to look forward to in this game. When looking at it from the Moeller side, they have one loss, which came in Week 2 against Mount Carmel, where they scored 40-plus points, but they lost 42-43. And then from the Bombers' perspective, they are undefeated. But what really makes them scary, Brandon, and when we do the post-game show, we listen to the games and, Tony Shad, Ralph Nardini, all those guys. What's really scary about the St. X team, and I mean this in a good way, is they have yet to play an A game, right? They have yet to put a full game together, right? Defensively, they've been pretty much A all the time. But their offense and their special teams and their operationally, they still haven't put a great game together. Right, they're very young at quarterback with Jackson Fry and some young offensive linemen, right, still coming together. And they've had some fumbles, they've had some missed field goals, right? Their special teams hasn't been perfect, but they are still dominating most games, right? This past week against Westerville North, we thought it was going to be their A game when they were up 21-0 in the first quarter. Maybe it was going to be a running clock, but again, just like X has been doing all year, foot off the gas, turnovers, fumbling the ball, simple things like that. But they're still undefeated. And when they play an A game, there may not be another team that can beat them with how good their defense is. You mentioned all the names. Kobe Clapper, he's going to go to Notre Dame. He didn't play last week in last week's game, but I'm assuming that he's going to come back. Hopefully it's nothing major there. And like you said, Braden Riley, Daniel Vollmer, et cetera, et cetera. Young sophomore studs like Grant Lyons, right, all over the place on defense. And then for Moeller, right, I mean, just the names. We have so many Division I athletes in this game, offensively, defensively, for both sides. The reigning Mr. Ohio football and Matt Ponatoski. This is going to be an electrifying game, right? We already got word that West Claremont is sold out. They sold 6,000 tickets. And I'm going to be honest, they probably sold that out in about 10 minutes. And I'm not joking. They've sold out Molar X games in less than 20 minutes before. So that it's going to be fun. It's going to be exciting. Give me Saint X. I think they play us close to an A game, right? Because I know Steve Specht, who also became the winningest head coach in Saint X history last week, getting his 190th victory. So, they're riding high over there in Saint X. And their defense is going to be suffocating, and that's going to be the matchup, right? The experience of St. X's defense, the experience and, high quality play of Moeller's offense, that's going to be the big one, right? And can St. X get some first downs? Can St. X kind of move the chains? I'm really looking forward to this game. Again, it's number 1 versus number 2. Everyone's looking forward to it. I do want to move on, though. We could talk about that game for about another 30 minutes, but we got some other games to get to as well. So I do want to move on to the ECC, where we have another top 10 matchup. Talking about number 3 Anderson taking on number 7 Kings. This game is going to be at Kings. Brandon, let me know what you're thinking about these teams. We know how dominant Anderson has been on both sides of the ball, but let's not sleep on Kings, right? They're a top 10 team. They beat Witten Woods. They're battle tested. Coach Garvin does a great job. Let me know what you're thinking about this game.
And exactly that. Kings, a very tough team, very well coached. It feels like they do the little things, to come away with victories very well on the scouting perspective. I think they beat a lot of teams by out scheming them and things like that. Among the good players that they have, like the quarterback Grant Nuri and Max Lockwood at a running back position. He has weapons too. Nathan Tucker, Andrew Lyman at wide receiver. So Kings a very complete team, but on the other side, I just see, explosiveness offensively and defensively. And I think the thing, I've been saying this for a couple weeks, that sets Anderson apart is their defensive ability, going back to last year and so far this year with guys like Brady Kuhn and Antoine Higgins and Kimari Ty and Ace Austin. You can just go on and on and on of guys who are just high level athletes. They're in the right spot at the right time. They're getting guys down. And they got themselves a test last week from Lebanon, who 36-10. That seems like a fair margin of victory, but that was a 14-10 game after a quarter. Anderson only was able to score 1 touchdown in every quarter after that. So it was a little closer than maybe expected. But I like the firepower of Anderson on offense. We know what they're going to do on offense. I like the defense to carry them to a win. 14-point victory, I'll say, on the road.
Yeah, piggybacking off your point, I agree with you completely. It was a closer game than many people, might think just looking at the box score, because the first 3 weeks they won 52-10 in week 1, 49-7 in week 2, 50-7, right? So only getting 36. Again, Lebanon, that's a good test. And then when looking at it from the Kings perspective, they've won games both ways, right? They played close games. They've won some shutouts, some competition, right? They had Sycamore in week 1 and West Claremont. They dominated both of those teams. But Witten Woods, it was a 2-point victory. Loveland, it was a 7-point victory. I love the kind of dynamic schedule that Kings has played, right? They've played close games. They can score 30 if they need to, but more than likely they're going to have to play some good defense. And that's what it's going to come down to, right? Anderson's offense is explosive, right? Can Kings defense contain it, right? Because if they can contain Anderson, make them punt a couple times, right? We know Owen Scoff is going to throw the ball, maybe get an interception or two. That's Kings' way to win this game, right? It is going to be an uphill battle because of the talent and head coach Evan Dreyer. He does a great job over there at Anderson. They're going to have to get some turnovers, right? They're going to have to make a big play, right? Block, field goal, block, punt, something like that. But again, Brandon, I'm not counting Kings out in this game. Yes, it's going to be an uphill battle, but they're battle tested and they're going to be ready to go come Friday.
I agree. They'll be ready to go. I just think you got to score points, to beat Anderson, I feel like. And it's just, can we score enough? You'll be able to stop them some, but I just think it's so much pressure to go out there and and think you're going to play them down to 20 or so points. So I think it comes down to, can we outscore them? Because I feel like Anderson, they're going to score. That's what I feel. So that's why I'm taking the Raptors in this one. But as we know in these conference games, and Kings have shown it before, you never know. But I'll go with Anderson.
Absolutely. And when looking at the bigger picture, if Anderson gets this win, right, we know they still have Winton Woods on the schedule, but this is one of the two tests, right, for Anderson, right? It's going to be Winton Woods and it's going to be Kings. If they win this game, let's say hypothetically in pretty good fashion, right, by 2, 3, 4 touchdowns, that does a real good job of them in their Division II rankings, right? They just went to state last year. It's going to be hard to stop. And the thing is, Brandon, they're going to keep getting better, right? Owen Scoff is still young. It's his first year at quarterback. It's scary to think, but their offense is going to keep getting better. Their defense is going to keep getting better, right? Antoine Higgins, I believe, is only a junior. And this team is here, and they're here to stay. They're going to be good this year, and they're going to be good for years moving forward. And again, it's going to be a very good game at Kings. So we hope you guys can tune into that game. I do want to go to another top 20 matchup, Brandon, pivoting to a little interconference matchup, right? We have the CMAC being represented, and then we have also the GCL South being represented. Number 19 Withrow taking on number 9 LaSalle, right? These are two teams, LaSalle coming off their first loss last week, right? It was the opening of GCL South play for the Lancers as they took on Elder. It was 18-6. Right, so the defense played pretty well, very well for LaSalle, Coach Pat McLaughlin's team. And offensively, they just couldn't get it done, which again is a big credit to Coach Ramsey's defense. But LaSalle coming off a tough loss. But again, when you play a schedule like that, that's going to happen. Let me know what you're thinking about this from the LaSalle point of view. And of course, Withrow, they have been dominant coming into this game. They're undefeated, just wiping the floor with everybody. Let me know what your thoughts are on this game.
Well, LaSalle, I think they'll need to do it on defense again this week. Colin Woodridge and Rodney Portis, they are the top two tacklers in the GCL at linebacker position. And I think they'll need to be good this week as well. Withrow, they're averaging over 40 points a game. They do have a young quarterback, sophomore, in Savion Davis. He's a dual threat type of guy. Think of a Lamar Jackson or Michael Vick type of player that can very good at running the ball as well as dishing it out and finding open guys down the field or out of the backfield. So this is similar to Moeller and St. X, high-powered offense against a defense that's been playing well. And I think, whoever there would be to kind of win that battle should come out on top. But when I'm really breaking it down, LaSalle, battle-tested, very tough schedule. They showed me a lot last week against a game against Elder, who I'm very high on. They're at home. I kind of see them playing that physical brand of football and getting themselves a win at home.
Yeah, this game is really interesting. Withrow has played some GCL South teams over the years, right? I think it was either last year or the year before when Withrow played St. X, and I believe they played them 2 years in a row. So Withrow was familiar with this, GCL South schedule, this GCL South gauntlet. They pride themselves. When head coach Khalid Jones was at Withrow before he left, they're used to playing this tough schedule, right? And LaSalle, they played teams from different conferences. They played teams from different leagues. Seeing LaSalle, again, I think they're going to be really good, but Elder was the first real test. And I also believe this is going to be the first real test for Withrow. And they did lose 16-8, right? Coleraine, Northmont, Fairmont for LaSalle. I think LaSalle having the game last week against Elder is going to do them really, really good, right? I really like this Withrow team. They're going to continue to be in the top 25. I think they have a chance to win 1 or 2 playoff games. I would not be surprised if Withrow goes on to, win multiple playoff games. But that game last week against Elder, right, another top 5 team in our rankings, I think that pushes LaSalle over this week. I think their defense continues to be dominant. I love Savion Davis. He's going to be a first-team all-Tri-State football player, next year, senior year. This guy has so much potential, athletic ability. They also have sophomore Mr. Acho. I hope I'm saying that right, Mr. Acho, who actually leads the CMAC in interceptions with 3, right? So he's kind of a ball hawk, and he's going to have to play well. They got good players all around, but when you play the GCL South schedule, I think that Brandon really could put them over and is going to help them later on in the season.
I agree. And you mentioned a test that they got. And although they lost, I think that was a test they passed, for all intents and purposes, playing a tight game like that. And remember, they're in the Division II playoffs. So playing a high-level Division I team close like that, it says a lot about their abilities. And, Withrow, some of the guys up front, Christian Browner, Chris Barnes, if they can have an impact, you never know. But, I'll take LaSalle at home.
Absolutely. And that was, again, a very interesting game to look forward to. All right, Bern, I do want to pivot over to Northern Kentucky, right? The Bluegrass State, because we got more ranked matchups to talk about here in week 5, getting you ready for week 5 in the tri-state area. Brandon Lampley, Safwan, Alvi from TriStateFootball.com. Number 13, Covcath, taking on number 24, Beechwood, right? And speaking of, right, when we talk about rankings and discrepancies, here's a class discrepancy. Right, Covington Catholic, a much bigger school, right there in Class 4A, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, and then Beechwood is in Class 2A. There's a big discrepancy in classes, right? Beechwood is the class, they've won a bunch of state championships, and where they are, they're actually the reigning state championships. They have titles all over their cupboard, and Covington Catholic has some state championships as well, right? One of the more prominent schools in Northern Kentucky, number 13 versus number 24, Beechwood, but Brandon, this is going to be an uphill battle for Beechwood, right? Because of the size, because of the talent. I'm never going to count out the Tigers, right? But this is going to be a fun game, but Beechwood has their work cut out for them.
Yeah, fun game for, the state, Northern Kentucky, the community. But, like you said, kind of just a small school versus big school type of situation. More kids, more guys, uh, bigger guys a lot of the times. But there's still some great players out there on both sides. And when I look at Beechwood, I look at Tyler Fryman, the wide receiver, defensive back, kind of do it all guy for the Tigers. He's been kind of leading the way with a young quarterback, Emmett Queen, getting him the ball and doing some things. And when I look at Cuff Calf, Cash Harney, we've been talking about him all year long. His ability to get out of the pocket, make plays with his legs, throw on the run. I like Dylan Geyser out of the backfield. They also got a tough defense. I mean, it reminds you a little bit of the Withrow and LaSalle just off of size and physical type of play and things like that. So I'm going Cub Calf in this one.
Yeah, I agree. I think Cupcath wins this game. I love Beechwood. They're going to be right there in the Final Four state championship game in their class again. But Cupcath is just a different level, right? And I mean that literally, right? They're in a different class. They're just literally on a different level. And Cupcath, don't look now. They've won 2 consecutive games after losing their first 2, right? They lost to Ryle early in the year. And all of a sudden, Eddie Evans thinks Drew is, getting it together. They're playing well offensively, defensively. Look out for this Covcat team as time moves forward. All right, Brandon, I do want to hit one more Northern Kentucky game because this is a top 15 matchup, right? Really good teams going at it. Number 12, Ryle, taking on number 8 Highlands. This game is going to be at Highlands. Again, top 15 matchups. Ryle started off, right? They were 2-0. They beat Covington Catholic, as I just mentioned, and they beat Connor. But since stumbled a little bit, right? They lost to, Cooper, who was that's another team, right? That's slowly getting their footing underneath them after a tough start. And then they beat Louisville Christian Academy. Let me know what you're thinking with these teams. Top 15 matchup, really interesting to see.
Yeah, Ryle kind of slowing down a little bit, like you said, off of that hot start. I think they're in desperate need of a win this week just to kind of, right their ship a little bit. Jacob Savage is a guy you want to have in that position, though, as a running back, as a linebacker, a leader for your team, just to kind of help you get over that hump. And Highlands, I like Rio Littmer. He's another electric player as a quarterback, and he's been doing a lot. But I mean, Tatum Lorenzen, he's been the guy that's been all over the highlights, all over the news cast and things. He's been having a great season so far. With the ball in his hands, he's able to do a lot of things. Highlands kind of getting back to their old self a little bit from years past. I'm going to take the Bluebirds at home.
Yeah. And a main thing I saw about Ryle's loss, or losses, I should say, they lost both of them at home. Right. Ryle tends to play really well at home. They lost both games at home. Again, I think they're going to be okay. But when Ryle, who just was in the state championship game last year, loses 2 games, especially at home, I think that's got to open the eyes of head coach Engler. Again, I think they're going to be okay. Highlands, remember, they had that game against Boyle County, right? This Boyle County team just kind of keeps hanging around, right? Cubcats played them, and they lost a big game last week, and then now they're playing Highlands. We just keep talking about this Boyle County team in Kentucky. They lost by 1 point, right? Which, again, that just like you mentioned for that LaSalle game, I think I was passing the test for Highlands, right? Because Boyle County, regardless, is still one of the 5 to 7 best teams, maybe in the entire state of Kentucky, right? And they've shown that with all those state championship games, losing only by 1 point last week. In a game they had a chance to win, by the way, right? It was a 1 point game. They had a chance to win that game at the end, losing by only 1. And I think that's a really big test for Highlands. But again, I really look forward to this game. It's going to be one of the most fun games, especially in Northern Kentucky. I think this is a game that kind of comes down to the wire, right? Like a 21-24 type of game. And I really look forward to it. All right, Brandon, before we get out of here, we're going to do some rapid fire picks, right? We're going to rapid fire picks some Southwest Ohio games. Right now, we're going to jump into number 5 Princeton taking on number 16 Lakota East, right? Princeton coming off that big win against Lakota West, dominating performance, right? Many of us thought Lakota West was going to win that game, but Princeton wins 27-10. Big win. And then number 16, Lakota East, they've won all but one of their games as well. Let me know what you're thinking with this GMC matchup.
Well, I'm going to go against the grain here a little bit. And some trends I've been seeing out of Princeton, this is kind of one of those trap games, I think. Coming off of a big win last week, if you broke down the stats with Lakota West dominated every stat in that game. They just couldn't get in the end zone. And Princeton hit them with a couple of home run scores. I like East, I like Ryder Hooks and that run game. I'm going to go with upset here, Thunderhawks.
Yeah, so that's a good pick. I'm rolling with Princeton. I think that's a confidence win, right? I think that's a big confidence win for head coach Andre Parker's team. Lakota West. It's Lakota West and Moeller are the two teams that, Princeton has been struggling with over the years. Getting that big win against Lakota West last week. I think they go to Lakota East and they win that game. I want to do just a couple more GMC matchups. Number 15, Mason at number 22, Hamilton, right? Top 25. Again, this game is going to be at Hamilton. Mason and Hamilton, what do you got?
This is a huge game, I think, for playoffs in the future. Both of these teams are kind of probably in that 8-12 range right now, and the winner could have that leg up at the end. I mean, this is a tough one. Mason's played well. They're a physical team. Hamilton has also played well at times, but they're young. I'm sticking to kind of what I've been thinking. Another semi-upset, I'm going to take Hamilton at home.
I agree. I think home field advantage is big for Hamilton right here. Like you said, they're a young team. They're getting better week in and week out. Right? They've laid some duds, but again, it's still early in the season and they're young. I think Hamilton wins this game. I think this is going to be a defensive battle, right? I think if any team gets to, 21 points, I think that team wins, right? I would not be surprised if this is a 19-16 kind of gritty battle. Both teams struggle to score, but I'm going big blue as well. Just one more game over in the GMC. Oh, actually, no, that's Middletown versus Sycamore. I think we both think that Middletown is going to win that game by a lot. Sycamore still hanging around. How about Indiana, right? We haven't talked Eastern Indiana. This game could be a sneaky good game. Right, number 21, East Central at Batesville. Right, East Central is the cream of the crop when we're talking about Eastern Indiana. But Brandon, this is a Batesville team that won 7 or 8 games last year, right? And they played other Eastern Indiana teams tough. Tell me what you're seeing with this game. East Central's lost a couple games this year, right? They don't have the same, kind of firepower, to their game, to their wins. Again, they're still a very good team, but not the East Central we saw last year or 2023. Let me know what you're thinking. Does Batesville have a chance to win this game?
Well, they always have a chance, and even at home specifically. But, I'm going with tradition here. I'm going with the team and program who, they're used to winning these games. If they're tight on the road at home, I'll go East Central in this.
I'm going to go East Central as well in this game, but I'm going to say that I think Batesville plays very well in this game. I think many people are surprised about how close this game is, right? I think East Central could win this game at 31-27 or like a 31-24, where you're like, okay, East Central played well, but Batesville hung around in this game. I really like Batesville offensively, defensively. They're well coached. I do think East Central wins the game, but I do think it's very close. All right, Brandon, before we wrap it up, any more final thoughts about week 5, right? We're getting ready to get to the halfway point of the season. Anything standing out to you, right? The Moeller game we talked about, Moeller X, or just anything on your mind before we get to 50% through the regular season?
Well, I'm keen on an ECC team, the Lebanon Warriors.
Yep.
Like we talked about earlier, they are the battle of Route 48 this week at Little Miami, who's been struggling. Great program up there, and Coach Michael Failer doing a great job. He's got his son Luke playing quarterback, and they're moving in the right direction. I could see them as a good playoff team here. And the Monroe Hornets, I've looked at them a little bit. Coach Mark Mueller, sorry. He's doing his thing. They're at Clinton Massey this week, so a big game for them before they step into the Southwest Buckeye League play. I'm looking at those two teams up in northern Cincinnati area, and what they do this week and going forward the rest of the season.
Yeah, absolutely. Great stuff as always, Brandon. And as always, everyone listening, you can read Brandon's content at TriStateFootball.com. He writes our best bets. And this week, he wrote the Game of the Week article as well, right? So feel free to head out to TriStateFootball.com and read all of Brandon's excellent content. Again, we want to thank everyone for watching, and you can listen to our podcast version of this show anywhere you get your podcasts. Just type in TriStateFootball.com. Again, Brandon and I will be back next week to talk quickly what happened in week 5, and then we'll jump over to week 6 as well. So again, thank you so much for everyone listening. For Safwan, Alvi, Brandon, Lampley, the TriStateFootball.com team crew. Again, we'll see you next week, and we appreciate you guys listening.